Hello and welcome to Spiritual Fertility. Thank you so much for listening in. This is the second season, and for all those that are new and are joining me and listening to this for the first time, thank you for being here. And for those of you who have been on this journey with me, I appreciate you. And I know that you are going to gain so much value from the conversation that I have lined up for you today, and I am just so excited and energized. If you're watching this, you can see my background is like the forest and fairies and light, and that's what I think of when I think of my guest today. So we were talking beforehand, and the intention that is going to come through for you today is that to be in your heart and to come from a place where you are making decisions and you are sending out energy and you are receiving energy from that authentic place of your heart. And with that centering comes the power that is within you. And so my guest definitely exemplifies that. And her name is Andrea Donnelly, and she came into my world right around the start, I guess, of the pandemic or during that time. And I distinctly remember her in her connection to the earth and fairies. And I've followed her journey on social media and actually have experienced some of her work, and it's still with me today. In fact, I was remembering a cosmic gold experience that I started 2023 with, and looking at my notes and intentions, it's just so wonderful to see what was activated from that experience. And sometimes you can't even pinpoint it, but you just know that there is a change in you and in the path that is ahead. So, Andrea, I would love for you to share a little bit about your story, as much or as little as that you'd like, and then we can get into all of the juicy, fun, spiritual, medicine, mind, body, spirit, soul things.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here. So I am Andrea Donnelly. I'm the creator of what I call a multidimensional healing modality called future medicine, which I use to heal myself from previously disabling chronic nerve pain. And now I share it with people around the world to restore their innate ability to heal and reconnect them to their highest timeline, divine wisdom. And I do a lot of work with people to activate their psychic gifts and intuition, which to me is, we were having a really beautiful conversation before we started about just, a bunch of different things about healing and the journey and, the awakening process and the call to reconnect to nature, and how we ultimately, we're setting the intention to, as anchor people into like a deeper level of heart wisdom through this conversation. And I just feel like that is in so many ways what my work is really all about, is that energy of realigning everyone who finds me to their sacred blueprint, which is, from my opinion, how we ultimately restore truth and justice, not just to earth, but to every realm, like to all of creation. So yeah, and also if anyone was watching, I did a thing where I like pulled off a headset and ditched it because I've been having a wacky time technologically, and I realized that my computer mic was the one that was picking up anyway. So I just decided to scrap it, and here I am. We're just just going with the flow here, since I've been having just a technological time here where like none of my rather excellent external mics seem to want to work today. So just hopefully you can like hear me okay. And anyway, I just figured I'd say that. But yeah, I love talking about this stuff. I love sharing, my own journey and my own wisdom, and helping so many people to reconnect to that, because to me, there's nothing that I care more about than guiding people out of the matrix and home to themselves. Like there's literally like, it is my number one, like it's my doing this work is my favorite thing in the world, other than spending time with my cats and like, and engaging with the natural world, which is my other big favorite thing. So yeah,
That
very
is
happy.
so cool. Yeah. Yeah, and I'm a cat lady too. I love the felines. But yeah, so that's so profound. Like it's hitting for sure with exiting out of all of the noise and the matrix, as you said, and finding their way back to their true authentic self. And yes, your work is so profound. And I would like to know too, let's take us back to when you were a little girl, because you possessed many gifts, and as we all do, but like you're so in tune with who you are and what your gifts are. But you've been connected since as long as you can remember, right?
Yeah, I have memories of like being a baby and having like profound psychic experiences. Just like from the very beginning. I have often said that I was, kind of in from my perspective, like born remembering a lot of things that I think when we come into a human body and we essentially pass through like the veil of forgetting or amnesia that is present on this planet, that there were a lot of things that I just like intuitively always was very connected to myself. And I have always also felt like that was, in many ways, well, ultimately, what I was here to help reconnect other people to. And then also, have this, because I think that's what we're all like, everyone on earth, from my perspective, is really being called to like reconnect to that ancient wisdom, those old ways, right? Like, this is not, I know a lot of people sort of use the terms like the new earth, and I'm like, sometimes I'll use that term, but I'm like, it's not actually new. We're not doing anything new. This is literally ancient wisdom that every single one of us actually possesses, because from my perspective, we're creator beings at our heart. And we've been, just by way of the conditions on this planet, because of how heavy the conditioning and the programming and the misinformation is, that literally comes from every angle. Like, I can't even, anyway, it's just so heavy the way that we get hit with all of that. And it makes it so that we are very disconnected from this wisdom that has been always very like present in my own journey, in my own life. But I have watched so many people from the time I started my business, because I always knew I was going to like, land here at some point and share this work that I do with other people. And it's just been so cool to like watch so many people rekindle, right? These gifts, like everyone's psychic gifts are a little different. Like, people have all kinds of different ways that they can be intuitive and receive psychic wisdom, and essentially like honor the language of their own heart. But everyone has it. That is what, like, right? It's like, it's not a question of like, oh, am I intuitive? Am I psychic? It's like, you are.
Right,
The
right.
question is more, have you cultivated that spiritual intelligence, those gifts? And to me, because I was always like, I could never, I was always just there. Like, I've been able to talk to animals, and like, I'm psychic in every way that I understand. Like, I'm psychic in all the different kinds of ways. I see things, I hear things, I smell things, and I come from a very psychic family too. Like, my family was
Okay.
very psychic, right? So it was like one of those things. I was born in 79, so I was a kid in the 80s. And so I have, memories of when we didn't have caller ID. Everyone in my family knew who was on the other end of the phone every time it rang, because we were all psychic, which is like the OG caller ID. And so we just like, all of us would just always know that it was like such and such a person. And that was kind of like, so to me, there was this way where, I was always, I'm not saying my family was all necessarily like cultivating it and loved it, and you know what I mean, but I'm not like,
Sure. And I was
not,
going to ask you that. I was going to ask you, I mean, like,
um,
because like kids today, like they can get that covered up or squashed down or pushed down out of fear, right? So, but it wasn't necessarily cultivated, but you had a truth of what you saw in those that were around you. So you had evidence that it wasn't, and you weren't told that it was like crazy or anything. Yeah.
And I would always like, I always knew things about people that I shouldn't. I can like, it was just like literally my whole life, just like one thing after another. Like I have all these like wacky stories about, like once, this is so funny. This is like to date one of the funniest moments when I have been hyper psychic in my like friend group. A few, I don't know, like 10 years ago, some friends of mine who were old punks, who were not the kind of people who would get married, ended up getting married for some like very practical reasons. But they had always said they weren't going to, and the so all this stuff. And they had essentially done it like quietly, for personal reasons. And we were all standing outside, and I heard one of my friends in this couple say to another friend of mine, "Can you sign this?" All she said. And I saw float in front of me a marriage certificate, like a license from, and I am, Allison, I am a fucking romantic to the end of the earth. I love so much. And I got so excited. And I whipped my head around and I said, "Oh my God, you guys got married." And my friend was like, "Way to be so uncool and out all of us, you witch." "How did you know that?" And I was like, "Because I could see in my mind's eye that the thing you had asked our other friend to sign was a marriage." Anyway, I was like, "Oh my God." Anyway, it was like stuff like that, just like all the time, like from childhood on, where like things like that would just happen. And so to me, also, I was like, I'm so confused because everyone else is acting like they don't live the work, life like this. So, it certainly took me some time, and as an adult especially, to be like, "Oh, most people are really disconnected from what I believe, like everyone has these abilities, but like my connection to them because of, you know, who I am, essentially, that they were like always there." And then, sort of watching everyone else, like I never understand it when people are like, "Oh, that stuff is so like, you know, untrue," or what, well, like whatever the, narrative is. And I'm like, you realize that even institutions, right? Like on the one hand, the system tells us that magic isn't real and all this stuff. And then on the other hand, you go into any church, they're speaking incantations, which is essentially, right? They're like waving incense. They're doing all this very metaphysical stuff. So,
Sure.
and when you look at like the history of like corporations and politicians often leverage things like astrology,
Right.
psychic information. And so I'm like, so on the one hand, we have the system telling all of us that it's like not real, and don't, try, though, like that stuff
Right.
is just nonsense and hooey bluey, like all of that. And then I'm like, but then you're literally using those things to your own advantage. So it's just one of the many ways where I feel like it's really important for like the people of, the earth right now to be like, I'm going to actually start to like move in a way where I do rekindle these things, because our power systems say these things are not real, but then they all are using them. So to me, that is that's very curious, and that does actually speak to the fact that these things are very real.
Yes, they definitely are. And well, there's shame in not believing. Like there, and so when you are in that, right? And you are feeling those lower emotions and vibrations, like until you go through those like valleys and painful times, you're like, wait a second, wait, what is this? You can't like see clearly. And then you're like, oh, I see what you're doing there. Like you have to kind of go through that fear and shame and process those before you can kind of see it. And then you see it and you can't unsee it. And then you start seeing more of it and you're like, whoa, wait a second.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's wild too, because like it's exactly like you said, like once people start to like realize like the actual, complex metaphysical tapestry of things that are happening on this planet, it starts to like, it's like more and more and more. It's like layers, of like an onion, or like veils or something get like cleared away over time. You're like, "Oh, and then like this happened, and then and then I figured this out." And it's like putting a puzzle back together or something, right? It's like a puzzle of your own consciousness and like your own soul's truth and capacity to see. Because from my perspective, I mean, I think it's obvious that this planet is a clown show right now. I will not deny that in many ways. However, I really believe that like our truth, the actual like truth of who we all are and the planet herself and the natural world is that we're all like walking true miracles, and that the frequency of magic and miracles is our actual default state. But because of all of these things that have happened, right, like when you think about the amount of just toxins we're all exposed to, right, like the water, the air, our food, the soil, the seeds, like there's no way that we're not all getting like hit from like 1,000 directions every second. And to me, yeah, do I dislike it? Do I want a world where none of that is the truth? Absolutely. Do I want a world where like all of us are, every heart and hand is like loved and taken care of because we have the resources to do this? Like we can live in a better way. And I believe we're like moving into that. But also, it gives me a little bit, I'm kind of like, it actually like speaks to the fact that what I'm saying is in a lot of ways true, in my opinion, knowing how hard they come at us to suppress all of this magic and light. That it like, I'm like, see how hard they have to work to like dumb it down and like make it so we're like desensitized to these incredible gifts that we all have. I'm like, it's actually a little inspiring to me that like we're so freaking powerful that they have to come at us from so many angles. Like it just speaks to the truth of how powerful we all really are. And I know,
Yes.
yeah. So anyway,
Yeah, I mean, because they want to squash it down. And when you were talking about like toxins and environmental factors, some of those things are out of our control, but the it's so interesting, like the personal choices that we have once we realize, okay, like this could be harmful to me. So part of like I started realizing all about like chemicals and the ingredients in products. Like I was pregnant at the time, and it took me 11 fertility attempts to get pregnant long enough, and then a miscarriage prior to that, but to get to the point where like I was in the second trimester. Okay. And so I remember distinctly like being on vacation, and I'm like, okay, I have this baby inside of me. And I was getting a facial, and the woman at the time just started like through conversation talking about the ingredients in sunscreen being linked to cancer, and that anything you put on your body gets absorbed and goes into your bloodstream and internal organs. And I was like, what? Oh my goodness. Like if there's any chance like that's true, like I need to make some changes. And it really comes full circle, because today I was taking my now 11-year-old daughter to the dentist, and without even like realizing it, like as I'm sitting there and she's getting like her teeth cleaned and stuff, like the dentist put like fluoride on her teeth. And I was like, what was that? And he's like, oh, it's just fluoride. And I'm like, I need to check the notes, because I think you were supposed to ask me about that. And like, that's not something that I want to have on there. So it like opened up some things that I needed to work through, and they're made aware now that like that's not something I want. But it goes back to, once you know and you have that information and start to understand how like the physical body works with your mind, works to open up, you know, the spirit and what you see, like now you can take responsibility and move forward and make different choices. But it's all this big picture of what's being pushed down to keep us small and and not awake, right? It's that control thing. But yeah, right, would you agree?
yes. And the fluoride thing is so interesting because many years ago, I learned that fluoride was, researched as a neurotoxin during World War II by the Nazis. And I was like, why? And I remember being little, and every time the dentist would like put it in my mouth, like I would like freak out anytime I got a treatment with it. Like I did not want it. It would make me like gag and freak out, and it was always awful. And then I remember learning that point about how it was a neurotoxin, and I was like, this does not make any sense to me. This should not be in our dental care. Like from my perspective, I was like, this is a hard path. I have not brushed my teeth with like fluoridated toothpaste in decades. And just recently, there was a really big court case, a federal court case that was won that essentially clarifies that fluoride poses a what is it? I'm just looking here. It poses an unreasonable risk to people's health. This is a federal court case that just recently was won on the side of people who have been fighting for a very long time to kick all this stuff up to the curb about fluoride, because it is not. And so it's so interesting, right, that you were like you made that connection years ago. You realized it, and it's like it just speaks right to the fact that like we are really living during a time where this stuff, the truth is coming out. It's like it doesn't matter how hard, these being, all of these energies work to suppress that. And I would say, there it begs a lot of questions, like why, when this court case seems to outline that there was a lot of knowledge going back a long time that it was not actually good for us, then it starts to invite a lot of other questions in, right? Which is like, what are these systems that claim to be here for us to like protect us and keep us safe? It's like, what are they actually doing then? Right? Like if this evidence that was used to win this court case, which goes back quite some time, is is accurate, which it is because they just won this case, then again, it invites a lot of good questions from my perspective, of these systems that again claim to be in our best interest are actually doing things that are like not in our best interest. And then, why? So
Sure, for sure. And
I
it's
love
interesting when
that.
you talk about how you as a child like would sense that and know that there was something like in your body. Like the whole way home, my daughter was like spitting and she's like, I need to brush my teeth. My teeth feel weird. And I'm like, oh my god, I was going down the path of she hasn't had any fluoride. Like, I mean, it's fine. Like it's gonna be okay. But like it's just interesting, the whole thought process and actually as we're recording this it's election day, so like talk about systems and energy that's out there that we really need to be mindful of to make that personal choice of where our energy is and using it for good. But I want to really touch on, like, we talk about like healing and your coming in to understand your gifts and being confident with your gifts, but you've had some significant health challenges that you have utilized your future medicine modality to help heal from and move through. Can you talk about that experience for you? Because it's been like this remarkable transformation that I've seen you and heard you share that certainly is admirable, and I guess is the word, and just like inspiring to hear about and learn about. Can you speak about that?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's so interesting. It was a real journey. So going back to I'm 45 now. So going back to like my early 20s, I was in a series of car accidents. I often say four of them, but I've been remembering recently that there was another where I was not in a car, I was walking. So I had been hit five times, four times while I was driving in a car, and once while I was on foot. And there were things that happened, after each car accident where I would end up like injured and was with some injuries as a result. And I had off and on, so this went on for, I don't know, a little over 15ish years. I think I'm getting the timing right of it, like somewhere between like around like 15, 16, 17ish years, where I had frequently disabling but constant chronic nerve pain that was just so brutal. And from the time I got in the first car accident, which was in 2004, I knew, Allison, it was wild. I knew so deeply that I had the innate ability to heal myself. I had already started doing energy work. I knew I was a really gifted healer. I had seen like sessions that I would do for other people, and people would be like, oh my God, I don't know what that was, but like I have never experienced anything like that. And like I remember once working on like a friend of mine, her mom's knee, and she looked at me afterwards and she was like, I don't know what you did, but my pain is gone. And I have had a lot of healing and I have never experienced anything like that. And so there was this way where I knew that I knew that I was doing something very special. But then I would essentially like heal from an accident, and then boop, another one would happen, and then I would be injured again. And so this went on like literally between 2004 and the last one that I was in was in 2016, but I got in two in a 5-week period. And that was like, it just brought it all up again. I was like, really, that was like the one of the hardest windows of time that I've ever had to navigate. Because again, I knew that I could get out of it, but being in it was so intense. And my heart truly goes out to anyone who has any kind of chronic illness or chronic pain, especially chronic nerve pain, because nerve pain is so invisible to everyone else, and it will mess you up in a way that is like, while it's happening, it is unescapable, and it is just it's a really hard path to walk. I at one point I was in a support group run by a therapist for people who had chronic nerve pain, and the sessions were brutal because everyone was just like truly having such a profoundly hard time. And I just knew there was this like candle of hope in my heart and in my knowing, where I was like, even though this fucking sucks in a way that is almost too much to bear, I know that I know I'm going to fix this. And so it was just one of those things where it was like one of those like truly complex human things where you're like being called to like embody multiple truths at one time, where it's like the thing that's happening is really bad, but also I knew I could see a time in the future where I would completely heal and my life would be different. So I just stuck with it. I essentially tinkered with energy work for decades, on both myself, long before I started charging people, and started my business formally. I would do trades and things with friends, and those were cool because I had a couple long-term trades that I did with two different friends over a few years. And those were really cool because I feel like I was able to like learn a lot about, like essentially cracking some like cool healing codes. And watching both of them was amazing because like their lives, it was just so cool to like watch them remember the truth of who they were, and like, move through like the arc of this experience of receiving this healing that I offer people. And it's interesting too, because I feel like at the end of the day, between both like my own experience and then what I see in other people, I am really good at reconnecting people to the truth. And I'm also really good at like transmitting, energetic frequencies to people. So that's definitely like I am very gifted at those things. But there's this other way too, where it's like there's a way where like I'm not healing people, right? Like I am literally just reconnecting people to their own ability to be able to do this for themselves. And we need help. Many people need help to be able to get to that point, but it's like such a cool thing to be able to like watch people engage with my modality, because I've seen other people go through massive like health transformations and working with me. And I've also seen people leverage this modality for all kinds of other cool things, like shifting their interpersonal relationships and like changing their career. I've helped a lot of entrepreneurs like leverage my energy modality to build their businesses and shit. So it's like such a cool thing, because to me it can be used for so many different like things in this very, I am very woo woo in a lot of ways, but I'm a double Taurus, double earth sign. I am a practical MFer in a lot of ways too, where I'm like this wild combination of like super futuristic and also like there's a way where I'm like don't give me nonsense. Like I want practical things that are gonna work. Like if you're gonna tell me that something is gonna work, then I need to see some immediate fast proof. You know, like I am not, I am, I will. I want things that are going to be like actually impactful. And I do feel like, the new age movement is complex because I never really like identified with it because I think I mean, frankly, I feel like there is a lot of nonsense within, so a lot of like things that I hear that are happening in that way, but which again to me is in some ways it kind of makes a little sense because like again this is not even the word new, right? Like new is like to me it speaks to this idea that it's like something different that's going to happen, and to me it's like I feel like what I'm helping people remember is ancient. It's ancient wisdom, it's ancient truths. It's literally like we are all creator beings. We have this profound ability to affect not just our own physical bodies and our energy and the way that our life plays out, but the world around us. We have this incredible ability to be able to like vision craft a different reality for all of us right now. So to me, it's like this is so important individually, it's so important collectively. Like the restoration of our capacity to like engage with magic is so crucial. So that was a long, very windy answer, which is a very me thing to do. So
No, it's great. As I'm like listening to you speak to those that are listening, like it's just bringing up so much love and confidence and joy and magic, of course, and miracles, like all of the things that you embody, like I'm feeling, and I know those that are going to listen to this are feeling too. And of course, I'm like nodding my head, like as you speak, as we learn. Like, so I'm curious to know, have there been any one or two like tools that you have used that have really kind of helped you opened up? I know you get support, and you talked about how you do exchanges and have worked with folks for a long time, which is amazing. And I too, I'm with you on that. Like working with somebody for a long time, like really like helps to kind of like bring out more and more. You get that trust and that knowledge so much. But um yeah, are there any specific like tools that have helped you along your way, like
I mean,
in your journey?
I think energy work is like one of the most potent I love energy work. I work on myself multiple times a day. I work on I work on myself, I do energy work on my business. I do energy
Uh-huh.
I'm very targeted, and in terms of like, like I like to be able to like I hone my skills every day, and I like the effect that doing, using essentially, right, like working my own program. I work on myself all the time. It's like a constant like, thing, because again, the external conditions on earth are such that in my mind, like we will reach a point where things are very different. But I think like especially right now there's just a lot happening, and so to me like energy work so quickly just like cuts through the noise, brings you back home to your own heart. Like I am like every day forever with that one. And then I also I'm a big, you and I are both projectors.
Yes.
One of the things about, projectors is that we have this really unique kind of innate ability to understand the power of the natural world and the power of the natural world, the restorative qualities that it possesses. And so I live in a city, but I also make it part of my daily practice, like to get outside. I go on, a walk every day to clear my head. I talk to the trees, I talk to the birds. I see lots of really, I mean, I live in like I am in the city, and like as I walk around, I not just see like birds and squirrels and cats and things like that. I see like rabbits and groundhogs and I see a lot of like magic. And so to me, it's just such an important part. I spent about an hour earlier. I have a big there's a large, what I call like an urban prairie right in the or my backyard, which is some large plot of undeveloped land that abuts the apartment building that I live in. And I have a large camping chair that I bring out into like the perfect sunspot, because I am apparently also much like a cat chasing the sun. And I spent like an hour just like literally sitting in my chair earlier, thinking about doing like mental prep on what we were going to talk about, and thinking about some things that I have planned for my business, and just a bunch of different things, some personal stuff, like and also just like being like literally like quiet and closing my eyes and just like drinking in, right, the light and the magic of the sun. Because to me, spending that time every day, like the place I set my chair up is underneath this beautiful mulberry tree that attracts birds during the months when the birds are active and present. And so it's always just such a like cool, beautiful thing to be able to like engage with the natural world. And so that's the other thing too, is like finding a way to like reground, because it does something for us, right? Like we know there's been like research done on the active grounding, and it changes us to like get out there and like hug a tree and experience the light of the sun, and like
Yeah.
get your hands in the grass and just like be, even if it's just for a few minutes. It's something I talk about a lot in my work, is like if you're going to do like one thing for yourself to change your life, get outside and listen to the birds without your earbuds, without all the, put your phone down for a few minutes and just like drink in the magic of the earth herself. Because she, engaging with her, also helps us to like remember these powerful truths about who we are. So as you engage with the natural world, it really helps over time to like restore those gifts from the heart, the intuition, the psychic gifts. It like, even if you did nothing but like start to have a journey where you just spent like a little bit of time outside every day, I feel like 6 months, a year out, you would be like, wow, I'm not the same person I used to be.
No, no. And it takes intention to do that. Like it sounds like unity in nature is definitely a core value for you. I mean, you are like in nature. And as a result of this conversation, like I'm thinking in my brain, I'm like, yeah, I have the privilege of being able to walk to work, to school through a park every day, to and from. So, but now, starting tomorrow, I'm not going to have my earbuds in when I'm walking to and from work. I'm just going to enjoy. And I've gone through ins and outs of like listening and doing things, but as a result of this conversation, so moving forward, I'm not going to have my earbuds in. I'm going to listen to the birds and connect with nature, because then that you're aware and you're present. It brings you really present and just gives you that ability to move forward in that place. And but the human design is definitely something that's helped me, and it keeps coming up and coming up, and I keep attracting other projectors like to talk.
Feel like we like I feel like we need to find each other, right? It's like this wait, are you also a 5-1, or are you,
No, I'm a 6'2". Mm-mm.
but are you what's your
I'm self-projected,
yeah,
self-projected.
okay. Yeah, yeah. So, so you and I are both, I'm a 5-1 self-projected
Okay.
projector. You're a 6-2 self-projected projector. And there's something, it's funny. I feel like, especially, there are not that many of us who are self-projected. Self-projected is a very rare, like, subtype. I think most projectors make up like 20% of the population, but people who are self-projected are like 2% of the population. So I love being able to talk to you, because I feel like you and I, even like before we started, we did like like we like talked some things out loud, which always helps me to like no matter how many times I've said a, you know, said a thing, it's like there's this way where just like hearing myself talk helps it all like connect in my own brain, right? And so
Right.
these things about being a projector too that you undoubtedly know, and I would also say that part of the reclamation of my health was related to starting to listen to, like, there were these ways where even though I knew that I ultimately operated in a really different fashion from pretty much everybody I've ever met. There were these other ways, right? Where like society is not set up for us. Society is not set up for people who have like limited energy and are not like go 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 go, right? Who are more, you know, I know that there's a subtype of human design called reflectors, but like I feel like projectors are also really good at the reflective element, you know, to use the word reflection like from, you know, my perspective. And I feel like for a lot of us, I would be fascinated honestly to see a study done on how many people who are projectors who are not able to like live in the frequency of, you know, staying connected to nature, working in, you know, a way that works for us as opposed to society's, you know, cookie cutter way. I would be very curious to see the links. I'm sure it'll be done at some point, but between chronic illness and people being projectors who are literally just burnt out and end up having physical health problems as a
Hmm.
result of like literally just being forced to live in a world that wasn't made for us. Like that feels like an important part, right, of like of the journey of reclamation of our consciousness and our sovereignty and our health and our, you know, which is essentially our wealth, right? So it's just I feel like there's so much. It was so important for me. I remember learning that I was a projector and being like, I always knew those things were true about me, but I like didn't. And here it all is like laid out.
Yes, it was confirmation. Like I was just like, "Oh, okay, I'm not just an empath. I'm a super empath." Like and also like I've always been like claircognizance, like just that knowing. Like I mean that's like core to me. So that was validated and then as well um the being driven by self-awareness, seeking self-awareness and wisdom, and but not, what I did learn is I'm not meant to verbal vomit my wisdom, right? I'm meant to wait for that invitation and like okay, so it's been really wonderful and enlightening to like be continue to be curious as that more of that comes up and I'm like, oh, okay, yeah.
I mean, there is a phenomenon that all of the projectors listening will be like, yeah, no, I know that truth, which is that when we are hyper insightful, we have a unique capacity to like see into people's auras, system, the I often like will also, you know, I can like tap into the aura as it were of like a system or, you know, communities, groups, political things, like use it in an even bigger fashion. But when we are not being invited to share the wisdom, it will fall on some deaf ears. Oh my God. Like I cannot tell you how many times I have just like really, you know, pushed like friends and family and what have you, like giving unsolicited, perhaps very wise and insightful advice. But when people are not ready to receive it, it is like you have never had a harder pass than a projector trying to like tell someone a truth about themselves that they do not want to hear and are not ready for. Whoa. And that really changes things too, because then as you stop doing that and you're like, oh, okay, I get it now. Like, this is actually when, you know, this is the time when my wisdom is meant to be shared. Like, when you start to like connect all those dots for yourself, it has such a big impact on like your personal energy, right? Like, it's wild how much just like getting out of like, we're not meant to help anyone necessarily. We're meant to guide people home to themselves, essentially. And we're also really meant, you know, to share things with people who seek us out because otherwise it just doesn't work.
Right, right, right. But I've going, thinking about this as we're talking, like going back to past, like I've been like conditioned, trained. I mean, like all of the things, like to like do and burnout and go and people pleasing and seeking outside of validation and sharing. And like that's so much noise, right? But when you can like get grounded, be out in nature, clear up your physical body, get in touch with your heart, like it understand yourself more, it just becomes clearer. And then you can see, like once I learned that, I'm like, oh my gosh, like even in my career and with relationships and with kids and the other teachers and the admin, and I'm like, oh, it's just very freeing to have that perspective once you know how you vibe and how you interact with others.
Yeah, 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 yeah. It's really interesting to like watch, and it's interesting too because, one of the things that projectors learn is that part of like our reclamation of our own like energy and, is something that they call why did it was in my deconditioning.
Oh, right.
And I always think it's such an interesting thing because to me, do all of us who are projectors need to decondition? Absolutely. And then I also feel like it's one of the ways that we're really meant to like also affect, change on the planet is like actually like do we maybe like urgently need to do it, for our like literal health and wellness? Yeah. Yep, probably that's real. And then also it's like this gift that we can give to the world to be like even people who have more energy to live in like the system as it's set up to hypothetically like benefit people, even a lot of those people actually are ready to decondition because like I feel like part of what we're realizing at this point on earth is like there are better ways, right? Like there are like I'm not saying I have all the answers, but I do know, and I have known very deeply since I was a child that like it doesn't need to be the sucky down here. It just doesn't. And as we all right decondition collectively from all of this fucking wacky bullshit noise, it's like we all like I feel like it's just essentially like a call for all of us. Like there is an element of like every human on earth like could get down to business doing some deconditioning work and being like,
Sure.
okay, like what do because it's really about I feel like the wisdom of the projector is essentially like helping people reconnect with like their own sacred truth.
Hmm.
And that is to me it speaks to one of the other like big pillars of my work, which is that there's no one outside of us who knows more about our own truth than us.
Yeah. I mean, wow, what a way to tie it all together. For sure. I mean, we could probably talk for a long time on all of this, but I do want to be respectful of your time. This has been super insightful and energetic and positive and uplifting, and this is what the world needs. So I appreciate that you've been here with me to be part of my experience in bringing out spiritual fertility to whoever is called to listen and hear it.
I love that. I love that so much. And I hope people find me. And I'm sure all my things will be in the show notes. But if yeah, I am on Instagram at C Witchery, my website is wearehere to remember.com. And if you sign up for my newsletter, everyone who signs up for my newsletter this month gets a free pass to come to I do like a monthly group healing that I call Future Medicine Monthly. So I would just love to, have and I recently started a YouTube channel. It's very small right now. But to the point of nature, for those of you who are not watching this, Alison has this wonderful background that has like trees and really beautiful colors and butterflies and a fire and fairies. And so where was there was some reason I was bringing in the
Your
natural.
monthly future medicine
Yeah, my
gathering.
my monthly future medicine gathering, that is like a time when I basically help people to reconnect to their own highest timeline, and we do some cool vision crafting for the collective every month also. So it's always really cool, and to me, part of like what I'm really here to help people do is reconnect to the elements and the natural world, because to me that is like literally like how, you know, we connect to that ancient truth, like nature is the realest of the realest of the real. um and there's so much power in, you know, reconnecting to that. So yes, I look forward to hearing people's, you know, experience. This was so much fun. Allison, we were talking at the beginning about, you know, you had done a program with me a few years ago that was called
Cosmic gold.
Cosmic Gold. I was about to say the Golden Cosmos, and then I was like, that's no, it's the reverse of that. Cosmic Gold. And it's just, yeah, there's so much gold in this wisdom, in this conversation that you and I experienced. And I just can't wait to like see how other people experience the magic. So find me in all the places. And thank you so much for creating this space and this community. Because to me, this is really like, there's nothing more important on earth that any of us can be doing than like doing this reconnection to our own hearts. So thank you so much for having me.
Oh, you're so wonderful. And yes, I'll be sure to include in the show notes all of the ways that folks that can get in touch with you. Definitely subscribe to Andrea's newsletter and check her out and become part of her world. I mean, just in like following her, you see and can feel like what comes through in what you share. So I appreciate it so much, and thank you so much for joining me. For anyone who is listening, be sure to do all of the things to help spiritual fertility reach more individuals in this world who are on a spiritual awakening journey, who are coming into their own, reconnecting with their heart, and you know, moving through this time and space. And just share it, like it, subscribe, review, all of the things, and I invite you to do that. And thank you so much again, Andrea, for joining me. And I we have to keep in touch because, like, yeah, it's so magical just to be here with you.